My parents are both from Pennsylvania, so I'm somewhat of a transplanted Pennsylvanian and grew up in Arkansas, and so Arkansas is my home. My high school English teacher at Mount St. Mary's was a Sister of Mercy who influenced us, the whole class, in a pretty amazing way. And so I decided I would try English as a major. I sent out a couple applications, and one of them was to a Catholic school in Illinois, and then did student teaching outside of Chicago. By that time, I had transferred to the University of Illinois. I married a young man from Arkansas, and he insisted that we move back. When I moved back to Arkansas and began looking for a job, I came to St. Mary's. I love teaching. I have a real passion for learning, and I think that's what I wanted to communicate to my students. I stayed home for a few years and raised 2 girls. I was fortunate to be able to have that time at home. I kept myself mentally stimulated by getting involved in the volunteer sector. But as time went on, my husband suggested that I go back to school because I planned to get my master's finished. It was the Master's in Interpersonal and Organizational Communications. And that led me, at the very end of that time frame, to work on focus group interviewing. I ended up hearing about Area Marketing Research Associates. It was part of Cranford Johnson. And then I approached them, and they hired me on a flexible basis. And after a time, I felt like it was that I just needed to take a break. And I ended up eventually approaching a man named David Miller, and he had a company called Miller Research Group. Dave came to work one day and said, "I think you should buy my company." He came in and he gave me a slip of paper with somebody's name on it. The name on the paper was George Wilkerson. So anyway, George came along, and we signed on for a couple years to work together and then review. So that was the beginning of Flake Wilkerson. We hoped that we would have sales of about $1 million the first year, and we pretty much got there. But within 11 years, we were about a $25 million company. You know, we kept paying attention to what's next. And I felt that we either had to acquire or we had to be acquired. So we started having some companies that began to look at us, and then it happened. I knew that the next step, I wasn't ready to just stop working, that I would start a consulting firm, and that's what I did. I started Karen Flake and Associates. I was asked to come to St. Mary's to help find a new president for the school. Sister Deborah, she asked me if I would consider the job itself. And so I went ahead and resigned from the committee and said if they were interested that I would consider it. And so after a few months, and after they took their time to decide, you know, exactly what they wanted to do, they approached me and asked if I would come be the president. Since I've been at St. Mary's, I have felt that it's important to talk to the girls here before they graduate. So when I speak to these girls, I ask them to keep Jesus as their friend. If that is their focus and their religion, then my sense to them is don't give that up. And I'm looking at them in their youthfulness and hoping that they, you know, can do everything possible to have the best life possible, that they can really be, you know, the person they're meant to be.